Welcome back, everyone. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE here at our NYSE studios. Of course, we've got our Palo Alto studio on the West Coast, connecting the East Coast. It's our crypto Trailblazers, back by popular demand. Thomas Lee with Fund Strat Capital. Big success with what he's doing. Great to see you back again.
Great to see you.
Yeah. First of all, great conversation last time around how you got your treasury, you got the DAT, you got the staking on Ethereum. People love that. I mean, they love that market. But there's a little event happened in October that kind of put a little ripple in the pond, if you will. Talk about that dynamic, because I think a lot of people are talking about that being a moment in the industry.
Yeah, well, on October 10th, there was a headline, related to Trump and China trade relations that caused a pretty big drop in crypto prices. And that triggered a cascade of events that led to the biggest liquidation, single-day liquidation in the history of crypto. So it was bigger than FTX, bigger than COVID. And I think it exposed that there were some problems within the plumbing of crypto, and those ripple effects are still happening today.
And it was really, take me through the impact, because Bitcoin and Ethereum handled pretty well.
Yeah.
Or did it? And what was the main force?
Well, there's a lot of people who are kind of trying to put the events together, but you're right. Bitcoin and Ethereum actually proved to be pretty resilient. I think they only fell roughly peak to trough 7% during that liquidation. A lot of the smaller cryptos fell 80% or more. But what they ended up tracing this to is there was a feature in some of these exchanges called ADL, automatic liquidations. And when the collateral that someone puts to borrow money, if the price of that drops, it triggers an automatic sale. So some of the small stablecoins actually went below $1 momentarily. So what you thought was safe collateral because it was worth $1 suddenly fell 40%, then that triggered a cascade of liquidations. That is what spread sort of really quickly across the network.
Is that a macro, micro kind of combination thing all happening at once? Because it begs the question, do this, I guess is the wrong word to say small cap coins, but as crypto has multiple tokens, does that signal maybe a consolidation? Does that signal maybe a rethinking of what should be even in the system?
I think as people look back, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum held up really well, because like in prior episodes of liquidation events, that you could have seen Bitcoin and Ethereum fall 30–40%, but instead they barely fell. But in that market, there is a bit of leverage, because crypto does attract people who like to use leverage, and there's volatility, but that combination can be quite lethal when liquidity shrinks. Yeah. And so it was kind of a negative, adverse combination of factors.
Perfect storm, as they say. I want to get your thoughts on Ethereum. Obviously, your fund, staking, you're all in on Ethereum. Bitcoin, we all know, is a store of value. Ethereum's a productive asset. Talk about that aspect, because there's financial opportunities in thinking of it that way. Explain again why you think the Ethereum staking is so important, because if you're getting yield, you can organize around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think foremost, Ethereum is a smart contract blockchain. So you can essentially program a lot of information and store it. That allows you to do a lot of things that are really useful. And it's in contrast to Bitcoin, which really is essentially stored energy, or digital gold. Yeah. One of the big breakouts this year in terms of product adoption has been stablecoins, which is a dollar that's tokenized onto the blockchain. And a tokenized dollar or stablecoin is useful because you can use fractional payments. Instead of something being in pennies, a stablecoin drops to 12 digits. So it's good for micropayments. And there's a lot of finality, right? You can send money, send dollars, and you know that these transactions are final. Well, it turns out Wall Street's interested in tokenizing more than just dollars. There's a lot of talk about tokenizing, as Larry Fink would say, tokenize everything onto the blockchain. So equities, bonds, credit, real estate, what they call real world assets, you'll need a neutral blockchain to actually essentially create these products and run it on. Ethereum makes a lot of sense because it's got a vast network of validators, meaning there's a lot of security. It's also been around the longest. It's celebrating 10 years.
Yeah.
And it has had 100% uptime, which means it's very reliable. And the Ethereum Foundation, has been pushing forward ideas and projects and in a way that is trying to be Wall Street friendly. And I think that's also really important. In fact, the fact that they're hosting an event here at the NYSE makes all the difference in the world. The NYSE is the most prestigious exchange in the world, right? Everybody in any country who does markets knows what the NYSE is.
Yeah, and with the sovereignty issues going on with the US dollar, with stablecoin, this symbol of capitalism, I said, you called it Darwinism last time we chatted, which was a fun comment. It does represent a symbol.
Yeah.
Even though we're going digital.
Yeah.
And the stablecoin now backed by the US dollar has huge implications.
That's right.
Huge implications.
That's right. And I think what we have to remember is for everything that happens in the real world, like economic activity, there's one unit of financial transaction. So the NYSE sits really at the center of that. Everything that happens in the world has to essentially go through an exchange. And, NYSE is, again, the most prestigious exchange.
Yeah, and I think NYSE is owned by ICE now. And I think, I lived for the past 25 years in Silicon Valley, grew up in New Jersey, so I kind of knew NYSE. I know the East Coast and West Coast. I've seen both cultures, lived there, both sides. The NYSE was its own thing. Now it's owned by ICE. ICE is a huge monster company.
Yeah.
They understand data. And if you look at the NYSE history, I was just talking with another interview about this, they used to have stuff on paper. They used to close the exchange down just to count the papers. If they overloaded, then they went digital. So they're not a stranger to like format changes. So I think you got a good point there. And I was in meetings where I've heard they're open and their arms are open for crypto infrastructure.
Yeah.
There's more data. It's more exchange opportunities. So what's your view on that? Because we say go paper, go digital, digital to crypto. This is a natural progression for the NYSE.
Yeah, there's a lot of unlocks that come. Like moving, well, foremost, more things are moving to digital. I think more than 50% of all economic growth over the past 10 years has been native digital. And it's just a matter of time that as money has become digital, and you're tokenizing digital dollars, that it means that what becomes traded on a digital exchange isn't just stocks anymore, and it's not just bonds, and it's not even just real estate. It may be prediction markets. That's become a huge breakout.
Polymarket investment, $2 billion by NY.
Yeah, and Polymarket has really been good signal for markets. Polymarket correctly predicted in the 2024 election, 50 out of 50 states. The prediction markets got those correct. And in the New York City mayoral election, correctly called Mondami as the winner. So the prediction markets are proving to be really good signal for markets, but also that's taking events and making it a financial product.
Yeah, it converts everything to data. All right, if you look at the market today, okay, and I asked you, okay, in your world, okay, when you're staking and you're running this now crypto native thinking and systems that you're building and management of it. When I say what's a headwind and what's a tailwind, how would you answer that question? What's a headwind and what's a tailwind for you?
Well, yeah. I'd say the headwind for crypto continues to be that it is a very competitive marketplace. And so there's a lot of ideas and, the best ideas win. So it's important for people to navigate that carefully. Because there's a lot of DeFi projects out there and a lot of good ideas, but only a handful are going to really break out. On the tailwind side, of course, is that we know that there is enormous efforts and interest in moving everything digitally onto the blockchain. So that's going to be a 10-year tailwind for the industry.
Yeah, I like the idea of the trading of real-world assets. I think that's where I see a lot of opportunity. What does that do to the TAM? The TAM is incredible if you think about what the TAM is.
Ethereum
today compared to what it could be. with other assets coming in, not just stock.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Ethereum's network value today's maybe 400 billion or so, but global GDP is 90 trillion. Okay, the total size of global financial markets is 200 trillion, maybe more.
Yeah.
There might even be 300 trillion. How much of that ends up on blockchains? The idea, according to Larry Fink, is to move 100% of this onto the blockchain. So we're talking trillions of dollars of assets moving onto layer 1 blockchains. That creates a lot of network value for the underlying chain that's essentially the base layer. So yeah, it's...
Yeah, you mentioned Larry Fink multiple times, and also Secretary Bessent. They're all pro this direction.
Yeah. So we could see, exponential upside.
All right, well, what's new for you? What's on your plate now? What are you working on? You're here for the 10th anniversary party. Good to see you. We'll see you on the floor for sure. What are you focused on now? What's on your to-do list?
Well, there's a lot on the to-do list. I think that with regard to Bitmine continues to do really well. It's now the largest holder of Ethereum in the world. Last time I was here, it was just starting, and now owns close to 2.9% of Ethereum. There's a lot of investor education out there. A lot of people are really interested in learning about, one, how to actually create products onto the blockchain. There's a lot of interest in people deploying stablecoins, and a lot of folks want to work with us on understanding that.
Well, Thomas, thanks for coming on theCUBE. Appreciate it. Great to see you
again.
Yeah,
great to see you.
Always a pleasure. I'm John Furrier, the Crypto Trailblazers here at the NYSE. It's the 10th anniversary celebration for Ethereum. Everyone's in town. Huge event happening here at the NYSE. Thanks for watching.